In fact, we're going to lead today in Minneapolis, where, as you know, chaos and anger have erupted across the country over the death of George Floyd. He's the black man who died after being arrested by Minneapolis police. Demonstrations turned into riots as protesters clashed with police overnight, not only in Minnesota, but in California and Tennessee. Fires were set, stores were looted, and at least one person was shot and killed. And now the mayor of that city is asking the National Guard for help. And this comes as the FBI investigate Floyd's death from earlier this week. Disturbing video shows a white officer pinning Floyd to the ground by pressing his knee into Mr. Floyd's neck. And you can hear Floyd beg for help, saying, "I can't breathe." His girlfriend, along with many others, are calling it murder.
You know, this is the man I loved for 3 years. It's clear as water. That video says it all. If you don't see murder, I don't know what you see.
Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey is now calling for the arrest of the officers involved, and he spoke to our Jeff Pegues about the case.
Do you think that was murder?
I do.
You do?
Let me be clear. The arresting officer killed someone. As to the precise charge, I'm not going to get into that.
Christiane Cordero from our Minneapolis station WCCO has the latest on what's happening on the ground there.
I'm in front of an apartment building that was under construction in a city that is now unrecognizable. You can see the hot spots, the burns, the charring, the smoldering right here in South Minneapolis. And then you expand much farther beyond it, and you can see where this fire during this part of the protest spread to that old factory that firefighters are now working a little bit more aggressively on. They spent most of the night really just trying to contain the fire in this area because we are in the middle of a neighborhood, essentially, and there were protesters that were blocking this part of the intersection through much of the night. So we're told that this crew arrived around 4 a.m. As I said, they've been working really aggressively to try and put that fire out to the best of their ability. Now, this image is unfathomable in and of itself, and yet it stretches so much farther beyond what you can see right now. We're right next to a grocery store that was robbed and looted overnight. Glass is shattered in. Minneapolis Fire has taped off the section so that people don't go in there, don't go around there. We're also across the street from a Target that was robbed and another grocery store that was looted. And yet there are also so many small business owners who are already struggling amid the pandemic, who are now waking up to so much devastation at their business, whether it's graffiti, whether their windows were smashed in, or whether they were robbed. And so those are so many pieces of this story that we're continuing to follow here in South Minneapolis. Vlad, Anne-Marie, back to you.
You know, Vlad, I think that what we see there, and there's obviously no excuse for targeting innocent business owners and that destruction, but this is an example of frustration boiling over. When you see people taking to the streets, and what they want, though, you have to sort of commend the police department there, because within 24 hours they had fired the officers involved. But they want murder charges. They want things to be taken a step further. We may see that. The president says that the Justice Department is investigating. That was sort of a surprise tweet, and he made, I think, a comment a little bit later on from him. But, you know, when you see this outburst, it's not just a reaction to a single incident. It's a reaction to long simmering frustrations.
You know, when we talked about this earlier, Anne-Marie, we put it in the context of all the other killings like this that have happened throughout the course of history in this United States. And when you watch that video, which I can't even watch anymore, obviously as a journalist we watched it to be able to report on it early on, but when you realize what is happening there, that a man is slowly being suffocated to death because a police officer has his knee planted firmly on this man's neck, even as he begs. That is, I think, what is so hard to fathom, that he is begging for his life. And that cop just got his hands in his pocket, just another day in the office, got his knee on his neck for 9 minutes. And what I find really remarkable, Anne-Marie, is you've started to see other police officials across the country releasing statements saying that what they're seeing on that video is an egregious use of force. And so the question, of course, now remains as to what exactly is going to happen with these individuals, these police officers. And as you rightly point out, people are frustrated and they're angry. Of course, you don't excuse looting, but people loot all the time, not just for protests like this. I've seen college sports teams that win championships and people take to the streets and they loot, and that's in celebration of something. So when people look to these individuals who are frustrated, who are angry over not just Mr. Floyd, but countless others where there was no video evidence, as there was in this case, of people losing their lives. That is what you're seeing bubble up. And certainly the mayor is pushing for stronger punishment. We'll have to see where it all goes. And I know our Jeff Pegues has been reporting from there, and hopefully we'll get a chance to speak to him. But this is the reality. And when you, as you say, Anne-Marie, have people like the President of the United States asking the Justice Department to investigate, folks on Fox News like Sean Hannity saying that what he sees on the video is troubling, then you're perhaps starting to see a collective coming together over something that Black people in this country have known for generations.
Right, and I just want to point out sort of a quick little fact. I do not believe that the autopsy results have been released yet. That may be part of the reason why the discussion about criminal charges hasn't happened yet, but I'm sure once the cause of death is confirmed, then we'll see this conversation move on. But I know we have a lot of other news to cover.
Yeah, indeed.